So, we made it through the day. Hey, for those of us who've been here all day, it's been a fantastic day, I think. I hope you will agree. It brings us really to the highlight of our day today, of the PLS conference. And it is my great privilege and honor to introduce the keynote address today. We have Karen Rønde. As you know, we have trailed her all day. She is, she occupies pride of place on our schedule. She is the CEO of the DPCMO, as you know. I have a long essay about her that I was, going to sort of say, but actually it occurs to me that I don't think we need it, because what I didn't know, and I might share what I didn't know, was that Karen is also a lawyer. She's a judge in the Danish Court of Impeachment. She has been a member of the Danish Parliament. She was a TV anchor and journalist on Danish live news program Deadline. She was policy director at Netflix, and she was head of legal, public policy and sports at Viaplay. She is also a policy fellow at Queen Mary's Center at the University of Copenhagen. Of course she is. And if that wasn't enough, I am going to read to you the headline that says, "We have with us a celebrity and a superhero."
Okay.
Because the headline I was given from yesterday says, "Denmark takes over the EU presidency and DPCMO sues OpenAI." In the same breath. So it gives me great pleasure, and it is a great honor to introduce and welcome Karen Rønde.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very proud to be here. Because PLS has served the publishing industry for more than 40 years. Lots has happened during the decades, but your mission has stayed the same, ensuring that publishers receive fair payment. For centuries, the publishing industry, including the press publishers, has informed, entertained, engaged society, people, and held power to account. The industry has evolved with every wave of innovation, from print to broadcast and podcast, from digital to on-demand, liquid and agents. It has adapted to new technologies, shifting markets, changed consumer behavior, but has always delivered high-quality content. Global tech companies are leveraging our stories and our creativity to fuel their platforms without fair remuneration. They develop powerful technologies behind closed doors, sharing insights only with a privileged few. They reap the benefits of our content and our audience and users while keeping all data to themselves. That's why the EU, back in 2019, decided to introduce a neighboring right for press publishers in a copyright directive. A free and pluralistic press is vital for quality journalism, informed citizens, and a healthy democracy. The rise of online services as Google Search, which rely on press content, has challenged publishers' ability to license and monetize their work. Without clear rights, enforcing and managing online use is inefficient. Recognizing the role and investment of publishers is essential to support the sustainability of publishers and ensure access to reliable information. The directive also clarifies that online platforms are responsible when users upload protected content. Legal uncertainty over whether platforms need right holders' permission limits creators' control and fair compensation. To resolve this, fair licensing agreements are needed, ensuring remuneration while respecting right holders' choice not to license their work. So while the political intention with the press publishers' right were clear, if big tech wants to benefit from our intellectual work, they must have a license, a fundamental principle in all copyright legislation. The directive was transposed into the Danish Copyright Act in the summer 21. Denmark is a small country in a global world, so if the Danish press publishers should have a chance against big tech with this small new neighboring rights, we needed to join forces, all of us. It took more than 6 months to unite the industry, from digital media, newspapers, niche media, magazines, and our public service broadcasters, our BBCs. You may think it's easy because Denmark is a small country, but also in Denmark, private companies, private media are competitors. The biggest are, of course, the most powerful, and the small feel sometimes squeezed. In Denmark, we also have the old conflict between private-owned companies and public-owned companies. And the digital media and startups, they had great partnerships in place with Meta and Google, and they feared a collective CMO would jeopardize their partnerships. So a lot of story or history and conflicts, so we sometimes got the feeling that more divide us than unite us. But we all fight for democracy, for healthy information ecosystems, media freedom and pluralism, social cohesion, cultural diversity, informed and engaged fellow citizens. So we needed to create an organization built on transparency and earn the trust. We were established a month after the transposition in July 21 because we feared that some of our publishers would be tempted by big check to Google and they would conquer and divide. So our collective cooperation is not just about financial survival, it's about safeguarding our democracy. This mission we share goes beyond individual media companies because the fight for truth and accountability serves the public good above all else. We represent 99% of the industry by mandate, and we are approved by the Minister for Culture so we can represent the entire industry. Our mandate covers text and data mining, neighboring rights, and AI rights, and it also includes enforcement. Our focus has, of course, been the commercial licensing, but also data access and avoidance of censorship. The data access is key. As you know, children and young people consume content more and more on social media, on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We don't know what they upload, find relevant, and share. We don't know what they consume. So how can we continue to produce and create relevant content if we don't know about our users' behavior? Only big tech knows, and the combination of this big data and AI tools is a major problem. We have a board of 13 members representing different skills, backgrounds, and size. Under the board, we have 3 subcommittees open to all members. We have a licensing committee, a publicistic, and an AI nerd committee. Because, as we also discussed during the day, we realized the need for sharing knowledge and learnings, global trends, reports, analysis. We have many members who do not have the time and resources to follow big tech and AI development themselves. So by creating this AI nerd committee, we can add value to each members by sharing knowledge. We are today members of global networks as big tech powers and dominance in the creative industry is a global issue. The licensing committee focuses, of course, on licensing, agreements, data, and valuation. The AI committee focuses on legal, commercial, and technical issues and aspects of AI, and often we invite internal or global guests. Our publicist committee works with all the external activities. Again, Denmark is a small country, so to raise our voice, we need across borders, in the Nordics, in Europe, globally. We need to be visible and active to get big tech to come to the Danish negotiation table. We write op-eds with youth organization, Consumer Council, other CMOs, researchers. We host conference in Denmark, the Nordics, EU, always with other partners. We have established a nationwide conversation relay because I got so frustrated and felt so powerless in my discussions with big tech and sometimes feel they have become too big to regulate. So I wanted to take some control back. I wanted to see what we can do ourselves. How can we strengthen people's dialogue with each other and avoid the fragmentation online? We can do that by arranging physical meetings across the country. So together with the Danish Enlightenment organizations and the media organization, the relay visit people representing voices that are not so often heard. Young people, school organizations, vulnerable, disabled, minority groups. We show up at their premises. We tell them we do care about their opinions and that we want to try to understand and listen what we can do together to strengthen social cohesion and inclusion. We have a high level of member engagement and member transparency. It's essential for unity. I need members' feedback. I need to understand their context and daily challenges. And they must be able to follow the rationale behind our decisions and actions. A key stakeholder and closest partner today are, of course, the authors' organization. In the beginning, it was very difficult. Especially the journalists wanted a 50-50 split of any income. It was a matter of principle. But we had no money to share, so we could start a fight over nothing and only end up with one winner, and that would, of course, be big tech. We needed to join forces. We needed to focus on making the pie bigger instead of discussing my own slice of the pie. So we agreed that when we have real money to discuss, we will do so in good faith, and if we can't agree, we will try arbitration. It may sound easy, but it took us almost 2 years to enter into this kind of, you can say, peace and cooperation agreement. Big tech has networked for decades. They have sponsored journalists, researchers, youth organizations, consumer organizations, startups, business organizations. They have joined local industry group and interest group and influenced from within. They have created strong local relations, networks, goodwill, and influenced public opinion, often indirectly through local, trustworthy partners. So we started to map and visiting potential allies as Consumer Council, human rights institutes, youth organization from Scouts to political youth, children organization as Save the Children, universities, organization representing the elderly. We became a member of the amazing IFRO and PDNL, where we lean into their knowledge and insights. IFRO is a highly recognized and respected organization, and when IFRO raises their voice, civil servants and policymakers listen. In the UK, I've learned a lot from Ofcom and the Competition and Market Authority. We work together with the Nordic Council of Ministers and the Council of Europe, where UK was a founder. They focus on human rights, on democracy, and the rule of law. They may not be the most hard-hitting organization we have, but they can play a role. So what have we achieved? We divide big tech into 4 categories: search, social media, news app, and AI. When it comes to search, we have entered into interim license agreement with all search engines in Denmark: Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, and the other ones. It's interim license agreement because we can't, no surprise, agree on the valuation. When it comes to social media, it has been a struggle for 4 years. We tried with Meta negotiation. They didn't want to negotiate with us. We involved the Minister for Culture, so we tried mediation. They didn't want to participate because it's a non-binding instrument. We tried arbitration. They didn't show up. We have filed a complaint to the EU Commission because we want data access. We have filed a complaint to the Danish Radio and TV boards over scam ads on Facebook and over harmful content on Instagram. And we have filed a complaint against Facebook to the Digital Services Act Authority in Ireland. When it comes to TikTok, we repeat the history. We tried negotiations, we tried mediation with the Minister for Culture, we tried arbitration. We also filed a data complaint to the EU Commission. We have also filed a complaint to the Danish Radio and TV boards against over the harmful content on TikTok together with the Danish Children Organization. LinkedIn, here we thought we had a chance because they are owned by Microsoft. It was super difficult. I think we were the first from Europe contacting them and telling them about this new legal framework in Europe. And they just couldn't get their head around this new rights. Our quality content has a huge value. So we filed a complaint to the Danish Copyright License Tribunal. It's again a non-binding institute. And they delivered a decision 2 weeks ago. And now we will sue LinkedIn with support from the Danish Minister for Culture, who will also front a revision of the copyright directive in parallel with our court case starting under the Danish EU presidency. YouTube, we have prepared our case. When it comes to news app, we entered into an interim license agreement with Update, a news app owned by Axel Springer. And then we went to Apple. And of course, they refused to pay for anything. So together with the journalist, the visual right holder CMO, the Danish media, and the Danish Right Alliance, we have reported Apple to the police because here we're talking about a crystal clear copyright legislation. The case is still pending. And it's a difficult case, of course, for the police. OpenAI, they told us very frankly when we reached out to them that Denmark is not a priority. We had to understand they have a small team and Denmark is not top of the list. Well, law is law, and also in Denmark, tech companies need to abide by the law, so we involved the minister and asked for mediation. And the minister appointed a mediator, but of course they didn't want to participate. So, as you mentioned, on Tuesday we announced that we're going to sue OpenAI on behalf of the entire Danish industry, including the public service broadcasters. And hopefully more right holders will join the case. Gemini, we also prepared the case, the same story with OpenAI. We asked the minister for a mediator, and we're considering next steps. Le Monde and Perplexity entered into an agreement with Super Curious, so we have reached out, and we're discussing with them. I also read in the press that New York Times had entered into an agreement with Amazon. And whether it's a good idea or not to enter into an agreement with Amazon, I don't know. But I know that every time I talk with big tech, I learn something. I learn something about their tactics, their strategy, and their legal position. With Mistral, I have a meeting next week. We have partnerships in place with AI companies respecting copyright law as per Rata AI. We also have pending discussions with companies like Tollbit, Sphere AI, Miso AI, Onido AI, and Cloudflare. Because what we need to do if we can't enter into a license agreement, of course we need to protect our content. We need to block text bots and shadow bots so we can efficiently protect our content and regain control so we can actively decide whether we want to or not to license. We have entered into agreements with the national LLMs. We also discussed national LLMs earlier today, because we believe as an industry, we have a responsibility to contribute to the creation of alternatives to big tech. What other tools do we have? Short-term, medium-term, long-term. We have discussion around must carry, must offer regime. We have discussion around, as Ofcom, how can people get easy access to content of public interest? The entire discussion around accessibility, findability, discoverability. we have a discussion around, should we introduce a kind of cultural contribution regime? In Denmark, we call it the Netflix tax. Should we introduce a kind of license where big tech should have a license to conduct business and reach our users and consumers in a territory where they, by design, should respect copyright law, competition law, consumer law. We have drafted concrete copyright proposal and shared them with the government and the EU Commission, opt-in, reversal of the burden of proof, final offer arbitration model, as you have in your Digital Markets and Competition and Consumer Act from last year. Our approach from the beginning in 21 was we wanted to be open-minded, we wanted to be pragmatic, we wanted to be flexible and solution-orientated, but it takes two to tango. And many big companies have another approach. They just don't care about our industry or Europe. It's a global AI race, and they want to win no matter what. And that is why the global companies are taking our content, blocking news, censoring, manipulating. Chatbots are biased, they hallucinate, they create false links to our members, undermining the industry's sustainability and trustworthiness. And at the same time, we face outdated legislation, legal complexity, change of business models and technology, lack of money, lack of focus due to internal issues, lack of trust and cooperation, also sometimes among right holders. And on top of this, we experience, at least in Denmark and the Nordics, news avoidance, news fatigue. Books in Denmark, we're having a reading crisis because children and young people read less. We talk about the TikTok generation. We may not have a very optimistic story to tell, although we try, as your Alliance for IP stress the industry's delivery of economic growth. But big tech sells a positive story about the democratization of AI, of information, of arts, about socializing online, that all can be creators and stars. They talk about innovation. And their services, features, and products are amazing, and they're for free, you can say, and super convenient for consumers. So how should we respond? I believe that we must pursue at least 5 parallel tracks, 5 pillars of a sustainable and just creative ecosystem. First, licensing. Value must begin at the source. Our top priority is fair remuneration that fuels reinvestment in quality content. 2, legislation. We must set the rule for a fair game. We need strong, clear law that respects creative rights in the digital age. 3, literacy. We must win minds and hearts to create lasting change. True change isn't just legal or technical, it's emotional and cultural. We must lead by educating, building trust, showing integrity, and listening deeply. This means uniting communities, engaging stakeholders, and showing the human side of creativity. When people believe in a mission, they fight for it, not just with their words, but also with their actions. 4, leadership. To shape change, someone must take lead and be willing to take risk. Denmark has just taken over the EU presidency. AI and copyright is a top priority. Again, we are a small country, but Denmark is ready to show leadership and to be ambitious, and so must we. 5, litigation. Rights without effective enforcement are just wishes. When our rights are violated, litigation is necessary. Legal action serves not only to protect the individual creator, but to set precedents and deter future abuse. It's a tool of last resort, but one we must use when negotiation and legislation fail. and that is why we have decided to sue OpenAI. But litigation is slowly and costly, and hopefully we will be able to, in Europe, to introduce this fast-track final offer arbitration model as the UK, Australia, and Canada. A free press and cultural diversity are cornerstones of European democracy. That is why the Danish publishers' decision to take this collective approach to big tech is rooted in a deeper need to protect democratic values. In our data and information economy, we of course need to be agile and adapt to new realities, but we all need to play by the rules. We are not asking for special treatment, but we are asking for a level playing field. Without fairness, the AI era widen gaps in wealth, power, and opportunity for the many. What's worth copying is worth protecting. The quote is from a UK ruling in 1916, but the principle still applies more than 100 years later. And it's a good reminder that we need to keep things simple if our voice is to be heard. Big tech benefits from public discussions, legal discussions about definitions of inputs and outputs, opt-outs, opt-ins, fair use, open source, etc. And we risk ending up on the defensive and appearing to protect outdated business models. History has shown that copyright is a precondition for innovation and competitiveness, as accountability and transparency are for a fair marketplace. And that the discussion about copyright is not just about money. Creative content, human-made content, as books, news, video and music and scientific works, brings and binds us together as human beings, as nations. Books opens window to other worlds and to great understanding of our own. They reflect the cultural diversity that defines humanity. We need to tell this story again and again and again, and not just to policymakers and civil servants, but to the people, to the voters. And we must take the new generation seriously and build stronger bonds. Our story must bring hope and a positive agenda. The key to our success is staying united and transparent, fostering trust and alignment within our organization and with each other. With limited time and resources, we can't afford to reinvent the wheel in each business and territory. We won't be able to navigate troubled waters without upgrading our ability to cooperate and to act. Today we had come together, publishers with different backgrounds and of all sizes, but with a mutual goal, sharing knowledge and learn from each other. Attending this event and meeting so many amazing people gives new energy and hope. This isn't just a tech race. It's our future, and we can win the battle together. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Karen. We have time, 10 minutes, for questions and comments from the room. Please do raise your hands. We have Helen and Andrea Helen right at the back there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My name's Nancy Steidel, business medicine, intellectual property law specialist in AI and robots. So I just have a question in regards to, well done for the case with OpenAI. You mentioned that if you didn't win, that you would get chatbots or bots on it. I mean, how can you regulate that? That's like letting loads of flies in your house. How would you regulate that?
Can you please elaborate a little?
Yes. So you mentioned that, I do hope you win the case, and if you do win the case, that's wonderful. But if you don't win the case, how would you protect that then? How would you regulate that? It's like I said, it's letting a lot of flies in your house at one go, because that will be very tricky, won't it?
Sure. Two things, at least. We are trying, of course, to protect our content by, using the technical measures. And so, the bots and the shadow bots can't get access to our content. That is an ongoing, a very difficult task, but we're at least trying. The other thing is that on the policy side, we're trying to suggest to policymakers in Denmark and the EU that we introduce a reversal of burden of proof rule. So if big tech here, for example, OpenAI, they can't, tell us what they have trained us, we will assume they have trained on our repertoire, and then they have to pay and license.
Okay, and just one more question. So if you do win the case, then how would you credit the creators? It's like basically if I go to a restaurant and I'm paying a tip to the restaurant, how do I know the waiter is going to actually get the royalty from it?
That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer yet. But I think we have plenty of time to look into this, because we know the case will be lengthy. But of course, we need in parallel to discuss, all legal, discussion around it. And that is why it's so good we have this close cooperation with all the authors, because we're on the same side. And we are focused on now, the legal part and OpenAI. But in the meantime, of course, or in parallel, we will discuss all the other implications of such a case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Anna. Thank you.
I'm Stuart Dresner, publisher of Privacy Laws and Business Reports, all about data protection law around the world. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. The question that comes to my mind is, Denmark has the presidency of the European Union. Which other member states are your strongest supporters?
Good question.
That's a very good question. Of course, we have a very strong cooperation in the Nordics. And again, we focus a lot on Germany and France as the biggest members of the EU. But we also try to help actually the eastern and south countries of the EU, because they also struggle very much with big tech. And we can see that big tech is trying to increase their influence in Central and Eastern Europe, because it's easier to get access maybe to the right persons. So we are very aware of that we need, actually all members on board, because if there is, a weak place somewhere, we can know for sure that big tech will take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's Graham Lovelace from Charting Gen AI. Really inspiring speech there, Karen. I'm really interested in this national conversation and that you sparked within Denmark. How do you see that potentially going around the world? Who's going to lead that effort? Who's leading it within Denmark even? And what is the role of publishers within that?
Well, we are members, as I mentioned, of global networks. So we work actually a lot of foundations based in London, but also in Washington, representing the West and the East and Global South. So we're trying to lean into each other's knowledge and help each other and drive this discussion on a global level. It's not easy, but at least we have actually, the formal procedures and groups, networks in place. So we're trying to copy-paste with pride in each territory. And we're also actually talking about whether we could produce a kind of playbook, which could be adapted to national circumstances. But a lot of the things I mentioned, it's not rocket science. It's just about doing it, actually.
Other questions in the audience? I had one from earlier, which says, with governments across the world who are enamored with the benefits that big tech says, as you said, says that they can bring, what given your experience now, what is your most optimistic outcome for rights holders?
I would say we need to be optimistic to have this work fight. I think we have a chance of opportunity, at least also in the EU, because things has changed after January. And in the EU, we focus now on the democracy shield. We have 3 pillars: the democracy shield discussion, the competitiveness compass, as you also have in the UK, and then better regulation. And if we manage from our side, the right holders, the creative industry side, to lean into these 3 agendas and combine them, connect the dots for, you can say, the governments. So we tell them how they should act and then benefit from it, also from a democracy level, but also for business perspective. Then I am very optimistic. But it takes that we do a lot of work and that we prepare all the concrete proposals which reflect the political agenda, and that we stand united. So they can't avoid, to listen to our concrete proposals.
Which is, which sort of reflects all the themes of today, because that's what we have tried to achieve, is, all the different strands that need to come together, including the policy and an understanding where the government's going and how we connect into it. We are almost out of time. Is there a final burning question that you would like to make? Please. Helen's on her way to you.
Brunella Longo, I'm a technologist, former consultant, writer and self-publisher. I have a burning question as a writer. I wrote a piece of essay, the title of which is The End of Freedom to Write What You Want, in which I reflected about AI from the perspective of intrusion in what I want to write, while I'm subjected to bombardment from programmatic advertising. I think I will self-publish this piece of paper, or essay, has been rejected by various publishers so far, so I will self-publish. So I come to the question, in your nationwide effort, cooperative effort, have you engaged with the advertising industry? And if not, what do you think about their contribution to this forthcoming framework for collaborative agreements with the AI big tech would be?
I think that's a very good question. And no, we haven't actually engaged with them yet. Maybe we should consider it. And maybe also, here we work very closely together with the Danish Media Association, the industry organization. So I think we should join forces here and discuss with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your questions. A very large thanks to Karen for...